Avoiding spam likely, best practices for calls. Why spam likely is the new gatekeeper for cold calls. If you're running outbound in 2025, your biggest competitor often isn't another vendor. It's the spam likely tag sitting between your SDR and a real conversation. Carriers and analytics providers are aggressively filtering because spam and fraud have trained prospects to distrust unknown numbers by default. The result is simple. If your call identity looks even slightly suspicious, your pipeline gets throttled before your rep says hello. The scale behind that crackdown is massive. U.S. consumers received about 52.8 billion robocalls in 2024, and months in 2025 have still been clocking billions of calls, including about 4.4 billion in a single month. When carriers are under that kind of load, they'll gladly accept some false positives, meaning legitimate B2B cold calling services get caught in the same nets as robocallers. At the same time, buyer behavior has moved against us. Pew reported that 80% of Americans don't answer calls from unknown numbers, and research commonly cited in telecom circles suggests over 95% of calls labeled spam likely go unanswered. If your outbound sales agency strategy assumes more dials fixes everything, you're scaling the exact signals that trigger spam labeling. Treat call reputation like a KPI, because it is. Call reputation isn't an IT side quest, it's a revenue control knob. If a number pool gets flagged, your answer rate drops, your connects fall, and your team starts working harder with nothing to show for it. That's why we recommend putting caller reputation on the same dashboard as meetings booked, pipeline created, and cost per meeting. The math gets ugly fast when your identity isn't clear. Hiya data shows about 46% of unidentified calls go unanswered, while 77% of consumers say they're more likely to answer when they know who's calling. In practice, unknown and untrusted behave like silent blockers, especially in B2B cold calling, where you're rarely calling a number that already has you saved. Operationally, the fix starts with ownership. Assign a clear owner in RevOps or SalesOps, review answer rate and spam flags weekly, and budget for reputation tools the same way you budget for dialers and data. If your SDR agency or outsourced sales team is measured on meetings, they should also be measured on the call identity inputs that make meetings possible. How calls get labeled: carriers, analytics, and pattern matching. Spam likely usually isn't a human decision, it's automated scoring. Carriers route calls, but analytics providers influence what shows up on the screen, and sometimes whether the call is completed at all. Solutions from providers like Hiya, First Orion, and TNS help carriers judge whether your traffic looks like normal business calling or high-risk behavior. Those systems look at patterns, not your intent. High call velocity from a single number, repeated attempts to the same recipient, low answer rates, and large volumes of ultra-short calls can all read like robocalling. They also factor in historical reputation, which matters because a new number to you can be a known offender in an analytics database if it was abused before you bought it. Identity verification matters too, especially with stir shaken. The goal is to prove the caller ID presented is authorized, and stronger verification generally increases trust. Many teams see major lifts when they move to higher quality signing and cleaner identity, and some businesses report answer rate improvements of 500% plus after improving attestation and reputation signals, because the call stops looking like spoofed or unverifiable traffic. Identity first. Set up numbers the way carriers want to see them. Most teams try to fix low connect rates by increasing volume, but that's backwards. Identity first, volume second is the safer order. Register your business and numbers with major carrier analytics registries. Confirm your voice provider supports strong, shaken signing, and make sure your CNAM and business listings are consistent everywhere prospects might look. When your brand name, address, and phone number don't match across directories, you create ambiguity, and ambiguity gets scored as risk. Next, segment numbers by use case so your traffic stays predictable. A common mistake is using one main number for everything: SDR prospecting, customer success callbacks, and billing follow-ups, because feedback and patterns get blended and the reputation model can't classify the caller. In a clean setup, an SDR pool behaves like an SDR pool every day. A support pool behaves like support, and each pool builds its own stable reputation over time. Use this table to sanity check whether you're building trusted business calling signals or unidentified high-volume signals. The goal isn't perfection. It's consistency, verification, and behavior that looks human at scale. If you scale dials before you scale trust, you're just speeding up how fast carriers decide you look like spam. Dialing behavior that protects your number reputation. Carriers don't just score who you are, they score how you call. High dials from a single caller ID, rapid redialing, and lots of short attempts look like automated campaigns, even when real reps are behind them. The practical fix is to distribute volume across a properly sized pool and enforce sane guardrails directly in your dialer so reps don't accidentally behave like a robocall operation. Short calls are a quiet killer. Huge volumes of sub-10-second calls, ring no answer, quick hangups, instant disconnects are a classic spam pattern, so we coach teams to slow down, let calls ring appropriately, and leave thoughtful voicemails instead of bailing instantly. Even modest improvements in average call duration can help your traffic look more like real business conversations and less like machine-driven probing. You'll also win by warming calls with email and SMS, not treating voice as a standalone channel. A coordinated sequence from your cold email agency motion, an intro email, a short compliant text, then a call, creates recognition before the phone rings. When prospects recognize your brand, you're fighting less of the unknown number instinct and building momentum for your B2B cold calling services. Monitoring and remediation. Catch problems before quotas feel it. The most expensive mistake is assuming you'll notice a spam label problem in time. By the time reps complain, the damage is already in your metrics: falling connect rates, rising dials per meeting, and inconsistent performance by rep, even when talk tracks are solid. Build a simple weekly spam health review that includes answer rate by number, average call duration, and any known spam labels across carriers. Use monitoring tools and carrier analytics portals to spot check numbers and dispute incorrect labels. Teams commonly check providers like Hiya, TNS, and Nomo Robo, then rotate, rest, or retire numbers that show persistent issues. The key is to treat number pools like inventory, tracked, audited, and maintained, rather than static assets you set once and forget. When call identity breaks, it also breaks deals. Hiya has reported that call-related issues impact revenue outcomes, including findings where 60% of sales professionals say they've lost a deal due to call problems. This is why sales outsourcing and SDR outsourcing partners should be evaluated not only on activity volume, but on their reputation hygiene and their ability to keep calls deliverable. Scaling safely, policies, tooling, and training for consistent outcomes. When teams scale, inconsistency creeps in, and inconsistency is what reputation engines punish. Lock in policies for calling hours by time zone, maximum attempts per contact, and pacing limits per number. Then configure those rules in the dialer so compliance is automatic. If your process relies on each rep doing the right thing, you'll eventually get a few high-velocity days that poison an entire number pool. Training matters as much as tooling. Coach cold callers to avoid frantic back-to-back redials, to leave voicemails that sound human and specific, and to follow up with an email that matches the call context so your brand footprint is coherent. This is one of the simplest ways a B2B sales agency can raise connect quality without pushing risky volume. Finally, measure what carriers measure. In addition to meetings booked, track answer rate by number, distribution of call durations, especially microcalls, and complaint block signals when you can access them. When you treat these as first-class metrics, your outbound sales agency motion becomes predictable, and you stop playing whack-a-mole with spam-likely surprises. Putting it all together, a practical path forward, and where SalesHive fits. The best next step is a structured audit, not a new script. Inventory every outbound number. Confirm ownership history when possible. Check current labeling, and map each number to a single use case with clear dialing limits. Then align identity, registry submissions, consistent CNAM listings, and a voice provider relationship that supports strong stir-shaken signing for the numbers you control. If you don't have in-house telecom expertise, this is where a specialized cold calling agency can save months of trial and error. At SalesHive, we treat call reputation as part of execution, not an afterthought, because it determines whether our outreach ever reaches a decision maker. Since 2016, we've booked 100,000+ meetings for 1,500+ B2B clients, and we've seen how small identity and behavior issues can quietly wreck a quarter. Whether you build internally or partner with an SDR agency, aim for a system that makes trust scalable. Clean number pools, enforceable cadence rules, and coordinated voice plus email outreach that creates recognition before the call. That's the difference between more dials and a reliable, modern outbound engine, one that protects deliverability while still generating pipeline.